and I am going to attempt to do this video amidst massive renovation going on at the neighbor's house. So apologies if any of those noises come through, but we're just gonna power through. So I, last time, shared a box where I stow away what I consider to be my fae and woodland themed decks. And I thought that I would move right along to another part of my storage system, which isn't super organized, but I have a series of bags that I started to amass in my previous residence. I lived in a small flat where there really wasn't a lot of shelving space and so forth, and so for whatever reason, shoving things into bags and just kind of shoving them by the side of my bed was the best that I could do at the time. So I am continuing to use these, but I ordered these from Redbubble. I want to say Winona Cookie is the name of the artist. I love her collage art, especially since she has such a vintage aesthetic. You can see this bag is really packed full. So again, not the most efficient means of storage, but you know what? It's working well enough for me right now. So just moving along. So I got this because of the presence of animals of land and air, but also the sea, because I wanted a bag where I could keep my animal decks, but also oceanic decks. And so I've got, for my more generic animal decks, because you can see the menagerie of animals in this gothic mansion there, which I get a kick out of. So to unpack this first, my first ever animal decks. Surprise! Sure, no one is shocked to see this, but yes, we have the Wild Unknown. And I almost feel silly for even flipping through this because my goodness, if you haven't seen this deck yet. But yeah, this was not just my first animal deck, but it might have been my second deck ever to follow the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. And as I learned the traditional meanings from the RWS, this was my first introduction to more intuitive reading. Because while I, of course, can see how the traditional meanings apply, the imagery obviously challenges you to go outside of those bounds. And I felt like, as a very, very early green reader, this was the first time I actually started to trust what I myself was bringing to the table, but besides what I could memorize and what I was knowledgeable of, what sort of intuitive hits I was getting with this, I found that I was reading more easily with this deck than the Rider-Waite-Smith. And paired with that, kind of a no-brainer, Animal Spirit Oracle. So, Kim Crayons, same artist. You can see I stole, I think it was Shuffle Tarot, where she recommended writing keywords along the edges, and so I went right ahead and did that. While I do love the guidebook for this deck, it is helpful to just not have to run and grab it every time, because I don't intuitively get interpretations just from the animal alone. I mean, I have certain things that I might associate with that animal, might get an initial impression, but I do tend to rely on the keywords from the guidebook. But yeah, so Wild Unknown, my first animal decks. The next animal deck pairing that I acquired a few years ago the Anima Mundi Tarot and the Nocturna Oracle. Both of these also by the same artist, so they obviously look great together. That's a sad one. Three of Swords, why do they always do it to us? Pippish, as you can see. It's a beautiful linen cardstock, which is one of my favorites. The gold gilding doesn't always feel great to hold, but it doesn't bother me greatly. I love this. But yeah, as you can see, some of these cards are just pips, but they're lovely and just all the natural elements. So this one could go into my woodland box, of course, but there are some animals included that are of the ocean, if not desert. There's a range of landscapes depicted along with the creatures. So I just think the art is beautiful. And I could be wrong, but I want to say that the artist, that I feel so bad that I can't think of her name, but that she painted these tarot sized. So I don't think that they were larger paintings just shrunk down to the card. They were made for tarot. And I just think she has this beautiful detail for rendering something on such a small scale. So yeah, it's just like a nice calm tone. I just feel like it's a real, I don't want to say basic animal deck, but I mean just a good all around if I'm seeking the natural world in this way. It's just, there's realistic depictions. There's no extra novelty type spin on it. It's just nice. And I just flipped through and saw that there was, interestingly enough, there's one human in the whole deck. I think this is the only one in the whole deck for the devil. I don't know, it just seems appropriate somehow that like of any creatures on earth that are going to get themselves into that kind of bind, it's going to be us people, while the animals are just out there just doing what comes naturally to them, not overthinking it, just living in flow with nature. Well, we do what we do, don't we? So that was the Anima Mundi Tarot, and then this is the, oh my gosh, what do they call it? Nocturna Oracle. And I don't know if you can see as I shine it against the light there, the texture, that linen texture coming through. Also gold gilding. Really atmospheric deck. I mean, it just has the basic black background. It's like life at night in the moonlight. What you would catch with night vision goggles or something. And when everything is quiet and still, all the life that continues to happen as these busy little animals go on with their day, even in the night. So this is another one where I don't see these images and just automatically intuit a message. I need to look it up in the guidebook to see. Oh, the kiwi. But I don't mind guidebooks. I mean, especially not for Oracle. You know, for reading tarot, I wouldn't love to be constantly having to go back and forth. I mean, I want to be able to intuit that on my own. I do enjoy a tarot guidebook, though, for just understanding the creator's thought process for what they chose to be represented in those images. I just like to see what angle they're coming from, what lens they're looking through. So for that reason, I'll look to that, but I'm otherwise not going to tarot guidebooks, relying on them for meaning. It's more so just to appreciate the art better. But for oracle decks, I'm a fan of the guidebook. And I tend to lean heavily on what those descriptions have to say. I'll be honest, but when I can push my intuition, I do. So yes, it just feels nice to just have a nice classic animal art deck like that. No novelty, but if we want to talk novelty, my latest animal acquisition, I got a fun, colorful bag for recently. I'm going to put this shop in the description below because I buy so many pouches from them. These other ones aren't from that shop, but probably most of the bags I bought are from the Bee and Snake on Etsy. She is based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they're great. She offers multiple sizes, so I highly recommend. But inside this colorful little bag, the Tarot of Curious Creatures. So now we officially leave the realm of realistic animals. Echoing what many in the community have said as far as anthropomorphized animals, you know, animal heads on human bodies, it's not something I go for. It's really not something I go for. It can be so creepy, but there is something about Chris Ann's art here. She just does it so well. It's not creepy. At least I don't think. I'm sure it does still disturb some folks out there. But, well, here's the back to start. Similar design as you see on the back of the Lightseers Tarot. A little more embellishment and color. But I just find these to be so adorable and endearing. And Lisa Pepez recently featured this one in her latest Mass Market Madness video. And I like how she said it. Like, it looks like the heads actually go with these bodies. And it is a weird thing to explain, but Chris Ann just did really well with the proportions and just having the body language and fashion just kind of coincide with these animal heads. It's wild, but it works for me. And again, I completely get it would not work for all, but I just get a kick out of it. And this one I am definitely looking forward to using this summer. I just think it is a hoot. I think that the images are also really great representations of the cards that they're meant to depict. I don't think it's just novelty. I mean, this is a working deck. This is something that can give real readings. And look at her. It's just fun. So fun, fun, fun. So these are all very different styles of decks, different ways of interacting with the animal world. So nice to have that variety. And what I actually couldn't fit in this pouch, I admit it, but I could still fit it in this big old bag. I got one more deck, and that is an oracle pairing for the Curious Creatures. I had this already, and I actually used to pair it most with the White Sage Tarot. And that is sadly, as sweet as that deck is, that is one that I have moved along. I just found I wasn't really using it in my collection. But let me just share what this oracle deck is, because I love this deck and I can pair it with many things. But being that I had my Wild Unknown pairing and my Animal Monday pairings. I just didn't want to leave this one sitting on its own, and I wanted to make sure to get another animal deck that I could use with it. And so this is where the Tarot of Curious Creatures is going to come in, because I think the coloration in these decks look nice together. So there is the Spirit Animal Oracle. I just think this is gorgeous. This looks amazing as well with the Mystical Shaman Oracle, of course. And I know that a lot of folks tend to not like the little accessorizing of the animals. It's not the most realistic depiction, although I have definitely seen cows wearing flowers on their head. You go to the Alps in summer, the cows have flowers on their head. Beautiful. And they're kind of smug about it too. You can tell they feel really special. But I'm not going to deny them that. It's their time. So, yeah, but I mean, dragonflies not typically wearing crowns. I get that, but I don't know. I get a kick out of this too. I like it. I feel like however they're accessorized, it's all part of the, other artistic design going on the card. It's all just trying to capture not as much the literal animal as that animal's spirit. It is the Spirit Animal Oracle after all. So if that conveys a certain essence and just kind of takes it into a more mystical realm, I like that. Because again, I have my realistic animal decks in the Anima Mundi and Nocturna Oracle if I want that. I would also say that the Wild Unknown has very realistic renderings, just in that more sketched way, just to elevate it to a more mystical, meditative place. I love this. I'm not always in the mood for it, but there's always some point where I will be in the mood for it. And I think it is going to be fun to pair. I think these will be really pretty to work with this summer. So then that does it for part of what's in the bag in my animal pouch. And I feel like I have to acknowledge, yes, I also have Oak Ash and Thorn and the Witch's Familiar Runic Oracle that features animals, but those are in my woodland box. So those aren't represented, but this is the method to the madness behind my storage system, okay? So next I will be sharing the animals and other beings that inhabit the sea, also to be found in my big bag of tricks. I will see you next time. Bye.